Hey everybody, welcome back to Ravenstead. It's time for another build. I want to keep continuing with the scatter terrain. I want to make something that matches up to previous builds. So I've got a lot of cool levels on the obelisk, the piece that we just finished. This time I've got an idea for a rocky outcropping with a cantilevered tree over the edge, and that tree should match up to the levels of the terrain we've already built. So why don't you watch over my shoulder and let's get something made.
Alright, let's get into this build. Got a nice big piece of that mountain laurel that I like for my trees. Just going to figure out kind of how to position this, and then we'll start carving this down. Mark out where I want it, and then just hot glue this down. You could use PVA glue, construction adhesive works well. I like the hot glue because it's fast. I'm using a craft knife here. I don't cut myself, so don't let that bother you. I'm just going to whittle this down. I realized this blade was kind of dull, and it kept making these little tear outs. For rock, that's not a big deal, but if you're trying to get a nice smooth cut, always go for a new blade. It got a little annoying, so I kind of changed it out. So I like to make a lot of different levels on the base piece. Just anything to keep it from looking like a big square piece of foam. Slicing and cutting to get the shape that I want. Now I'll go over it with a brass brush to give it a cool looking striated rocky texture. A little bit of aluminum foil balled up here to give a little bit more texture. I think I've got that right where I want it. So let's black bomb this piece. Just a mixture of Mod Podge and black paint. We'll get that all over the piece. That kind of helps to lock everything down, all those little foam fuzzies. And gives you that nice dark undertone for dry brushing. So here I'm using a little bit of light gray craft paint. I'm using a blending brush for cosmetics. It's worked really well. They're really fine bristled. I like to preserve as much of those deep shadows as I can, and then highlight it even more with a lighter color. This is just a light beige color. Trying to hit just the edges. Now I'll glue this down, and then I want to apply some washes to the piece. So I wanted the tree trunk to get the washing treatment, because it looks, it looks like a brand new piece of wood, and we want to dull those colors down just a little bit. I kind of thought it would look cool if this was like the remnant of the stump, where this piece just kind of shivered and broke and fell over this rock. Putting in some brown wash. This is burnt umber acrylic ink mixed with water, and then some green wash. These are all really for undertones. It kind of mutes down the hard colors. This is a little bit of Vallejo rust wash, and I water that down too. It's pretty thin when it comes out of the bottle, but I like it to really flow into all the crevices. Speaking of flowing, watch this. This is really cool. It's like the log has green veins all of a sudden. So that'll give a very, very light green tone. You won't even hardly notice it once it's dry. So we'll let the piece dry out and then do some flocking. So I'll paint on some watered down PVA glue. It's just got a little bit of water on it, just to make it a little thin so I can paint it on. And I'm just putting this on here, there, everywhere, and then sprinkle on this fine flocking. This is Woodland Scenics fine flocking. Get a good coat on everything. Tap off the excess, and it's like magic. All of a sudden we've got grass and moss and stuff growing on this thing. There we go. So we need some heavier texture, so I'm going to use some very watered down PVA glue and some medium flocking. I'll stick those down in different areas, and then I actually just kind of soak that down after I've applied it, and that makes to make sure it sticks in there pretty good. Then I want to tie in those textures, so I just go over it a little bit with the more of the fine flocking. There we go. Now it's bushes and shrubs. I'll put a little bush right in here. That'll give our little chipmunks somewhere to hang out when the big bugbear comes along and tries to use this thing as a bridge. A little regular PVA glue, some clump foliage. Here, just kind of hiding my mistakes and tying everything in. If you've got a big glob of hot glue on there or a seam that looks weird, just stick a little bush in there. Everything will be fine. There's some preserved lichen. I like the texture of that. There we go. And I made a couple of clumps of static grass. I'm just going to stick those in there. Again, just kind of changing the texture, keeping a lot of interest going. I like those shadows in there. That's really cool. And we got to have our rotten plank, right? That's been a theme through some of the other builds. So we'll just keep that up here with this log. A little PVA glue and some flocking, and there we go. We have a rotten log. Well, I'm going to spin this thing for you guys so you can get a closer look. The tree bridge. Some of you have been asking me to compare this to some of my other pieces, so here in the last shot or two, I'll show you how this is going to work with some of the other previous builds. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you leave me a comment. Love hearing from you. I love answering your questions and getting your great ideas. There's that bugbear. He's getting ready to make the jump. Good luck, pal. Maybe one of those chipmunks will trip him. Alright, thanks again for watching. Appreciate it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Ravenstead.